Welcome. We've been engaged in a study of the 12 steps with an adjustment of language that we refer to as the 12 efforts. And we're going to continue to do this study for the rest of our lives because it's a study that involves the transformational process of moving from addiction into recovery, moving from darkness into light, moving from the grosser elements to the more subtle elements, and really creating a spiritual experience for ourselves. That's really what it's about. These steps are designed to create a spiritual experience in the person who goes through them, designed to build a bridge to a source of greater power. And that is really at the heart of the work that we do at Recovery 2.0, which is to source more power, to build insight and intuition, to become more skillful in our approach to life and all of its challenges. And so that's what we've been up to. Tonight, we're going to continue our exploration as we go into efforts number 5, 6, and 7. We'll talk about those this evening. But first, I'd like to ask that we engage together in a little centering breath practice. So please come sitting nice and tall. If you're on a chair like I am, sit in such a way that you're not leaning back against the chair, but you're sitting up tall. So your spine is erect and you're extending the spine, and you notice that your heart is lifting as you extend the spine. I like to turn my palms face up with the thumb and forefinger together and rest the backs of my hands on my knees. Mostly I want you to feel comfortable, and I'd like you to close the eyes. Let's begin together by receiving this breath. Take a deep inhale. Fill the lungs completely all the way to the top, and then exhale. Empty the lungs out completely. Squeeze the belly in, and then release the belly and begin the next inhale. Pause for a moment just at the top, and then exhale. Draw the belly in toward the spine so that you squeeze the exhale out completely. And then inhale again. When the lungs are full, pause for a moment at the top, and then exhale. Continue to receive the breath in this manner. Inhaling to the top of the lungs, pausing, and then exhaling, drawing the navel point toward the spine to release all the air out, and then inhaling again. Breathe in such a way that in this moment it becomes the only and sole purpose of your existence is simply this breath. If there were no other job, no other worry, no other concern, no other thing to do, just this, breathe in that way. Inhaling all the way to the top, and exhaling, release. Inhale. And exhale. Focus intently at the third eye. Inhale. Pause at the top. Keep the focus at the third eye. And exhale. This is the complete purpose of this moment, simply to breathe in this manner. Inhale deeply. And exhale. Inhale deeply. And exhale. Take your deepest inhale. Suspend this breath, focused at the third eye point. Suspend the breath, pause. And gently exhale. Come with the eyes open. Beautiful. Welcome. Bless you. Bless you for showing up here. Fantastic. Such important work. And to focus steadily, week in and week out, on doing this work brings amazing results. So congratulations on showing up and on being a part of this exploration and this process together. To set the stage a little bit for the fifth effort, let's just quickly review. In the first step and effort, and we'll just explain there, in my opinion, in my direct experience, the 12 steps have been very effective in helping me to move beyond addiction. They set a foundation in my life where from that foundation I was able to explore further. Explore through psychology, science, medicine, yoga and meditation. Explore the mind, explore this physical body, and have an opportunity to gain insight, intuition, and to expand awareness and consciousness. The 12 steps gave me a foundation to be able to move out of addiction so that I could even begin that work. Over the years of my recovery, and even in my first experiences with the 12 steps themselves, I came to understand that some of the languaging in the 12 steps was difficult for people. And in many, many cases, it was keeping people away from doing the work of the 12 steps, because when somebody saw a word like God, if they were coming with religious prejudice, it was difficult for them to access the lessons there. If someone saw a gender reference to God, like referring to God as him or he, that could be very off-putting. And that could run up against both religious prejudice, but also feelings that God doesn't really have a gender, or if there was a gender to God, why would it be male or any particular gender? So there was languaging beyond just God also. There was languaging that created problems for people. Many people, maybe most people, I don't know what the statistics are, who are desperate enough in addiction are able, with skillful guidance, to find a way into the magic of the 12 steps. I'm one of those people. But what would happen to all those other people who, for one reason or another, were unable to access the magic and the goodness and this beautiful transformative process in the 12 steps if they were stuck around the language? And so rather than say to those people, well, you must not be desperate enough, or I'm sorry you don't understand the teachings here, I thought, well, let's try to find some language that could be helpful to those people. So that's where the 12 efforts came in, was I just simply took the spirit of the 12 steps and the wording of the 12 steps and created some new language. And that's what we've been exploring, is both the power of the step itself, but also the shift or the little tweak in language that I decided to give to each of the steps. Today, we're on effort number 5. And the background here is simply that in the first step effort, we're talking about the concept of stuckness. And we are recognizing stuckness. In the steps, it's put as powerlessness. In the efforts, it's referred to as a stuckness in belief and behavior. That we have been stuck in patterns of belief and behavior that no longer served us. In the second step, or effort, we're talking about the understanding what would happen if we even just believed that we could tap into a power greater than ourselves, which is the way it's put in the steps. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And in the effort, the second effort, we're talking about reconnecting with consciousness. That we've been, in the first effort, we realized we've been stuck in patterns of belief and behavior that no longer served us. And in the second effort, we're saying, or in the first effort, we're also saying that we've been disconnected from the power of consciousness. So in the second effort, naturally, we're talking about reconnecting with the power of consciousness, and that if we did that, we could live this beautiful life of moving towards health, moving out of addiction, and living this beautiful path, that which in Recovery 2.0 we refer to as the path of discovery. Why the path of discovery? Because along this path that we are committing to together, we're saying that every step of the way is a discovery for us, because we are not trying to recreate the past, but we're stepping into like a river. And along this river is just discovery, 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 evolution, 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 that we recognize that this actually is the nature of life. It is the flow of the universe. And of course, if we step into the flow of the universe, there will be more power there. In the third step effort, we were talking about, in the step, we make a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God. Okay? And so the way it's basically placed in the efforts is that we are making essentially a commitment, if you will. We're making a commitment to this new path, that by reconnecting and living accordingly to this reconnection, that we've got an opportunity in front of us that lasts the rest of our life. And that brought us to, that commitment and that decision brought us to our fourth step, or our fourth effort, which was personal inventory. And what we spoke about last time, when we spoke about the fourth effort, was what a brilliant process that is. The personal inventory is asking us not to look at life so much through the lens of our plot points of our life, like what happened to us, but we're looking at our life through the lens of our resentments, that we can better understand what has been blocking us by looking at the negativity that we have held onto in our life. Where have we felt resentful towards people, places, or things? And so we go through this very, very powerful process, which I believe everybody in the world should go through. I think it's just simply one of the most incredible, valuable processes that I've ever come across that would help a person to move closer to their own heart and move closer to their connection with all that is. If you're a religious person, you would not mind me saying your connection to God. If you're more of a spiritual person, you might see it in different terms. If you're an atheist, you might see it in terms of connecting with the quantum field of flow and possibility in our life. So that brings us now to the fifth step. So I'm going to be sharing from my personal experience tonight, and I'm excited to do that. My personal experience with the fifth step, and the reason I grouped the fifth effort step together with effort 6 and effort 7 is because, to me, in my experience, they're so deeply connected. This is like a section, if you will. This is a real section. And so I wanted to cover them tonight in their entirety. After you go through your fourth step inventory, you're in the middle of this process, and I'll read it to you. It's referred to in the steps as a fearless and thorough personal inventory of ourselves. And the only word I changed was to change the word fearless to honest. So an honest and thorough personal inventory. Step 5 is worded as follows: admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Effort 5 is admitted to the universe, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our unconscious behavior and the pain we had created as a result. So I took exact nature of our wrongs because, for me, that word wrong put us into that dualistic perspective of right and wrong, good and bad. And in an effort to try to move beyond any kind of self-flagellation, guilt, and shame, I felt like we could change that word wrong to unconscious behavior. Because what we're really engaged in when we're out of alignment with our heart or we're out of integrity, it's not necessarily that it's wrong. It's that we're in unconsciousness, that we're not aware of how to be in alignment in that moment, or we've fallen out of integrity. So rather than calling it wrong, I decided to just say, hey, this is unconscious behavior. So we admitted to the universe all that is, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our unconscious behavior and the pain that we had caused either to ourselves or others as a result of this unconscious behavior. Because in the efforts, what we're looking at is we're moving from unconsciousness to consciousness. We're moving from being asleep, if you will, to awake. It's the same thing in the steps. The wording is just a little bit more religious, a little bit more Christian, and a little bit more focused on sort of that dualistic perspective, which for me, at the beginning, when I was told this, it gave me pause, but when I was led through it, and I was willing to go through it, it worked for me just the same. Remember, we're just working with languaging, and we're trying to make these steps and the beauty that they're capable of available and accessible by all who would seek them. So that's the difference there in step 5. Now, the step 5 or the fifth effort process is literally to take the inventory that you've created in step or effort number 4 and to share that information, to share the process, to share the resentments, to share your sexual inventory, to share your fear inventory with another human being. In so doing, and through the prayer process, in so doing, you're also sharing that with God, with the universe, with Great Spirit, with higher power, with the quantum field around you. You are releasing your findings. Now, why is it important to do that with another human being? Is it not good enough to have found it and then to have shared it with God? What we have found is the power in sharing with another human being directly these very, very intimate and important details of your life. There's something incredibly powerful about sharing with another human being these things. And I guess what you could say, the number one reason why we do it is because it has resulted in helping people to stay sober. And when we have not done it, very often it fell into that old habit that some of us have or have had about keeping secrets. That we remained in our ego. We didn't want anyone else to know. We didn't want to allow another person to know about these aspects of ourself. Now here it's very important to recognize step 5, the 5th effort. We are not going out into the world and sharing these intimate details of our life with everybody. It doesn't say we admitted to the universe and to everybody the exact nature of our wrongs. What it is we choose one person. And it seems that one human being is enough. One human being who can hear the fullness of our truth, the full extent of our findings, who is willing to bear witness to our experience and to the things that have held us back and have challenged us, to really look at our own negativity, our liabilities, our strengths, to see the whole picture of us. And normally, for most people through this process, the person that is shared with is your sponsor. The sponsor is a person who is guiding you through the 12 steps or the efforts. And so that person the sponsee calls the sponsor and says, okay, I'm done with my 4th step, and I would now like to do my 5th step. And there's a very, 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 very sacred moment there that takes place between two people. And I can speak to you about it from both the perspective of being a sponsor and also being a sponsee. I viscerally felt a closeness with my sponsors when I have done this 5th step. I was gifted and blessed to be with people who really had given me their time and their heart, who had guided me openly and lovingly to this moment. And now I was ready and I trusted them to hear these deeper aspects about my life. And I always did the 5th step. I've done many now, but I've always done them to the best of my ability at that moment in time. And that was all that was required of me, is don't worry about being perfect. Just do the absolute best that you're able to do at that time. Whatever you know, whatever you see, share it. Share it honestly and openly with this person in the hopes and in the effort of being free. And so to go through that with another human being is an incredibly intimate thing. And so there are a few people walking around this planet who have heard the entirety of my understanding of my own challenges and my own, unconscious behaviors. And from the other side of the coin, as a sponsor, there simply could be no greater honor than for your sponsee to be willing to go through this process with you, for them to honestly bear their full experience to you, and for you to witness it for them. And it's just one of the most incredible things. And I think that in a very real way, it has bolstered my hopefulness for humanity. That I think that it's such a powerful thing that I've ever seen in relationship. It's one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced in relationship to another human being. And so to know that there's a group of people who are doing it, and that there's willingness on both sides of the coin, on one side to share and on the other side to listen. I just think it's so unbelievably hopeful for our species, for humanity. And so I think it's very special. I think it's a sacred thing. I urge anybody who hasn't been through the 12 steps to do it. And if you are into the language of the 12 efforts, I urge you to approach the 12 steps through the language of the 12 efforts, and to go through the process with your sponsor or sponsee, and do that together. So looking at the languaging here, we do feel it's really important to share this with another human being. I do feel it's important to, before doing that prayer plays a real role in it, that we want to set down right up front the intention that what take place here be fruitful, helpful, complete. The intention is to release all that stands in the way. That whatever we're holding on to from the past needs to be released so that we can become fully present and continue along our process of moving into this state of exaltation, the state of exaltation beyond addiction. And that's a real and true thing that any of us can have every single day. And it happens through this genius and wonderful process. So when we talk about the nature of our unconscious behavior, that languaging right there is, for me, hitting on what the problem is. The problem is what we can't see. The problem is our blind spots. And so much of the pain in the world is relating to someone's blind spot. Sometimes it seems like people are so mean-hearted and so violent or unkind or manipulative. And of course, these behaviors, of course, they're taking place in our world. Some people would like to ascribe the term evil to certain people who are particularly unconscious in their behavior, and where their unconsciousness causes great harm to other people. It feels like it's evil. The way that I've come to see it is as generally it's just tremendous unconsciousness. The person literally cannot see what they're doing. They cannot see beyond themselves. It doesn't excuse them from the violence and the destructiveness of their actions. What it does for me is it helps me to understand how that's possible, that another human being could inflict so much pain and damage from their state of mind and state of consciousness. I don't see it as evil as much as I see it as just like profound unconsciousness. And so what I'm trying to do through doing my fifth step is to bring myself to greater consciousness. And in the most practical terms that I can offer you, I would say I'm simply trying to become aware of my blind spots. I'm trying to see what I haven't seen before. And so to bring you into my intimate experience of the fifth step, what I typically was able to see through doing the fifth step actually was that I had been unconscious in so many ways. And my unconsciousness seemed to link with fear. That my unconsciousness and fear had a relationship. And that at the end of doing my fifth step, I could see that I had been very much controlled by or mastered by fear. Fear had been like the dominant thing going on, that I was living at a very surface reality. But I didn't think I was. I wasn't aware of that. And I had fears like fears of not being recognized, fears of economic insecurity, fear of not being enough, fear of being left out, fear of not being attractive, fear of not belonging. Those fears in small and large ways would end up affecting my entire life, every relationship, and all of my actions, even though I couldn't see it. Moving through the fifth step brought this tremendous amount of information to the forefront of my mind. It brought it from unconscious to conscious. That's that process we speak about in yoga, of going from darkness into light. So it's not that we don't have unconscious behavior. It's not that we don't have these challenges. We very much do. But the point is we're bringing those challenges to light. We're seeing the thread of fear through our behavior so we can begin to work on it. Because if I say to you, gosh, I have fear of economic insecurity, there's actually a way to fix that. There's a way to look at one's relationship with fear. There's a way to look at one's relationship with finances. There's a way to see how that fear could be affecting me in negative ways and in ways that perpetuate that problem, rather than moving me to a place of transcending that problem, moving through it and growing through that problem to the next level. That's just one example. But the fifth effort, or the fifth step, is moving us into a state of much greater consciousness. Fantastic. Now, at the very end of the fifth step, what it says in the book is, now that you've shared with yourself, with God, and with another human being, the exact nature of your wrongs, or if you're looking at the efforts, you've shared the exact nature of the unconscious behavior that you've kept and the pain that you've created. As a result, what you have also done, knowingly or unknowingly, is you have moved yourself into a position of greater power. You have taken responsibility for the challenges of your life. While many things that were difficult might have happened, that other people perpetuated their own unconscious behavior, projected it upon you, you now have taken responsibility for your reaction to those things. Therefore, you are now in a position of power where you can do something about it. Before, you might have been in a situation of blame. You might have been complaining. Now, the blame is gone. The complaining is gone. And you're in a position of 100% power now. I take responsibility for my reactions to everybody and everything around me. If I have held a resentment, it is my responsibility to work it out. If I'm waiting for somebody to make an apology to me, that has to stop right now. At least my connection to my own contentment and happiness cannot depend upon someone else's actions or inactions. I must move myself into a position of power. And that's what we've done here in this fifth step. At the end of the fifth step, or the fifth effort, what we're told to do, go home and spend 1 hour in contemplation, meditation of what has just taken place. Review your fears, review your unconscious behavior. And it says, right away, there's no reason to wait. We are now at step 6. And this is something that I want to float for consideration, that my sponsor told me, and thank God he did. Immediately, we're moving into step 6, and we're going to get right on to step 7, and we're going to get through them, and we're going to get through them quickly. There's some work that needs to be done here in each of them. There are understandings that need to be reached, but we are not going to take our time through these. We're going to move. We're not going to rest on our laurels right now. It's really, really important that the next steps be taken right away. Man, I am glad that he stressed that, because I went right into step 6, and here's what step 6 says. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Which defects of character? The ones we just uncovered for ourselves. The 6th effort words it this way. We became entirely ready to release these unconscious behaviors. The only thing required here in step 6, the one word which I did not want to change, the one word is ready. Ready. We became ready. What are we becoming ready to do? In one perspective, the perspective of the steps, we were getting ready to have God take this, remove it for us. In the 6th effort, we became ready to release these unconscious behaviors. It's semantics. I don't want to get caught up in it. I just want to say the reason I use the word release is because this is a letting go into the quantum. This is a letting go into the lap of God, laying it at God's feet, releasing from my body and mind this unconsciousness that I've been stuck in, that I became ready to release this. And there's a prayer in the steps, in the 6th step, and there's a prayer here. And I want to read for you this prayer. But before I do, I just want to express to you, and I guess I want to stop here for a quick moment, and I want to ask you, do you believe, or have you, more importantly, have you had direct experience of the power of prayer? Have you had direct experience of the power of prayer? Yes, I'm getting a lot of yeses. Absolutely. Over and over again. On occasion. Very powerful. Yes. Okay. Very good. Very good that you've had those experiences. I don't have to tell you about it. I don't have to ask if you believe it. You don't need to believe it. You've had direct experience of the power of prayer. I certainly have. I have it every single day in my life. And I like to think now that I'm just constantly praying all the time. And that is more what my life is about than anything else. It's just a constant prayer. Constant. All the time. Flowing. Okay? Here's the step 6 prayer as it's put in the book. God, help me become willing to let go of all the things to which I still cling. Help me to be ready to let you remove all these defects, that your will and purpose may take their place. Amen. It's on page 76 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. God, help me be willing to let go of all the things to which I still cling. Help me to be ready to let you remove all these defects, that your will and purpose may take their place. This is our openness to the will of God, our openness to the will or the flow of the universe. Openness to the flow of the universe. Now, I'm convinced that one of the reasons that people have such a problem with this languaging, I turn my will over to God, because there's such a profound misunderstanding about God. Because people think, they confuse God with, say, for example, a human being, or a church or an institution or something that isn't God. See, if I have to think about turning my will and my life over to the care of another human being, I'm in real, sincere trouble. But when I think about really what God is, that totality, that generating, organizing, and destroying force in the universe, that force, the consciousness underneath everything, I get it. I get it. God help me become willing to let go of all the things to which I still cling. So what I'm saying is I'm becoming ready to release the things I've been holding on to that have caused and led to this unconscious behavior. Help me to be ready to let you remove all these defects, that your will and purpose may take their place, that I can move into the flow of the universe, that I can stop hanging on to all my petty attachments, my resentments, to all the anger and the greed and the sense of hurt and the sense of disconnection. I can release all that so that I can come into proper relationship with my highest self, which is a little piece of God within me, a little piece of divinity within me. I want to be in alignment. I would like the fight to end. I would like the suffering to end. And I would like to be empowered, truly empowered in the flow of the universe. That's all this is. But I get it. This language of God I'll let you remove all these defects of character. It feels to some people like they're saying the Christian church. I'm turning my will and my life over to the Christian church, which is not what this is at all. I'm turning my will and my life over to a person, a monk, a priest, someone I deem to be a holy person. That's not what this is at all. This is the building of a relationship between you and the source of your creation. That's it. Whatever that means to you. However that relationship expresses itself to you. Now, this prayer, who wouldn't want to be successful with this? Everybody wants to be successful with prayer. So we can define this now. Let's work with this. So success in prayer. Wouldn't that be a great superpower? So for example, I pray and it comes to pass. Wouldn't you like to have that? I know I would, right? And I know that I do. So success in prayer is referred to as prosperity. Prosperity is success in prayer. Are you prosperous? Are you a prosperous person? If you can say yes, then you have been successful in your prayer. Your prayer, your intention, your expression to the universe, you've been successful with it. It's just really, really a beautiful way to look at the power of prayer. Who wouldn't want to be prosperous? Who wouldn't want to have success? So the question is, how do we learn how to become successful at prayer? And we learn this through practice. Through practice of not just prayer itself, but also our intention, practice of meditation and focus. And this is what leads us to greater success with our prayer. And we have to, in order to get good at prayer, you have to pray. And put your intention out into the world at all times. Put your intention out in the world at all times. And make it a ceremony for yourself, a beautiful ritual in the morning and the evening. And then let it carry over and spill over into a constant prayer throughout the rest of the day. So this success in prayer with the sixth step prayer, or the sixth effort prayer, if you will, universe. Let's see if I can change the wording. I haven't written this, so it's just sort of off the top. Universe, help me to become willing to release the things I've held on to which keep me in unconsciousness and unconscious behavior. Help me to be ready to release my unconscious behaviors so that I can step into flow and stand as an example of what that looks like. That I can be on purpose in the flow and the purpose of the universe. That I can be in great alignment and integrity. Amen. So that's what we're doing with step 6. Can you see the importance of why we want to go right into step 6 that next day? Really, right then and there, that next day, we've done the 5th step. We meditated on it for an hour. We arrive at step 6. We go to bed. We wake up the next day and boom. We wake up, we pray, we say this prayer or whatever words that work for us that express this idea. And it's all about readiness. And when we find ourselves in a state of readiness, what is readiness? It means we are willing to let go. We're willing to let go. You know how I look at it? Let's look at it in terms of the breath, from a more breath or yoga standpoint. So I'd like you to take a breath. Take a breath through your nose. And exhale. Now I want you to receive that breath. Receive it rather than take it. The difference between taking a breath and receiving a breath is at the heart of the 6th step. 6th and 7th, really. The difference between taking and receiving. In receiving, we enter this receptive place where we're in relationship. We're in relationship with. It's not us as a separate being. I'll take a breath as if somehow where I'm getting that breath from and me are somehow separate. No, I'm in relationship. I'll receive the breath. The next time you do a yoga practice, hopefully with me on Wednesday morning, the next time you do a yoga practice, see if you can receive each breath through the whole practice and see how that changes, profoundly changes your relationship to your breath and to body and to everything around you. Okay, this moves us right on to the 7th step. 7th step, humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. The 7th effort number 7 goes like this. Humbly ask the universe to remove the things which blocked us from greater awareness and presence. Greater awareness and presence. So in the step perspective, we're asking God now. Now there's a request going out. We're in relationship. We recognize we're in relationship. Since we know we're in relationship, can I make a request of this thing with which I'm in relationship? And of course the answer is yes. It's called prayer. The effort puts it as asking the universe humbly, could you please remove anything that blocks me from being aware and present, which means we are going to have to release the past now fully. And there's a prayer here as well. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Very Christian language. A struggle for a lot of people to say these words. And so we want to work with these words, keeping the spirit, but creating words and language that work for us in this day, in this age, regardless of our religion, our gender, our creed, belief system, etc. Okay? So rather than my Creator, you can't really say that you created yourself. So whatever it is that brings life, whatever the force in the universe is that creates this complex being, and what a miracle that any of us are here at all. Whatever that was behind that, I'm willing. I stand in willingness to work in unison, in this collaboration. It's basically saying, I recognize that I'm connected to you, to it, to this energy, that I'm part of the entire universe. And there's a way for me to plug into the power of the universe and to be in relationship. And in this relationship, I recognize now that I'm willing to release whatever has stood in the way between me and greater awareness and greater presence. Amen. So it's a prayer for help and support. Please take away my ignorance. Take away my unconsciousness. Take away the limitation in my vision, what prevents me from seeing more clearly. Take it away. I ask you for support because I'm in relationship with you. I recognize it. I see it. It's not a belief. It's a knowing. It's an understanding. I recognize I'm connected to everything and everyone that is and has ever been. From this place of understanding, I'm now recognizing if I step into the flow, that this universe, this thing, this energy, this consciousness, actually, since I'm a part of it, I can move into a greater state of awareness through this prayer, through this effort. And that is step 7. The genius of this is not to sit back and wait for fireworks to go off, bells and whistles to go off. The genius of this is not that you're going to be necessarily struck enlightened. You will be struck ready. Ready for what? You will be struck ready for the next step. Ready for the next step. What is the next step? Step 8, of course. And effort 8. We're going to go into that later. Not tonight. Those are efforts 5 and 6 and 7, steps 5 and 6 and 7. And when you have done these steps, and you've now 1 through 7, you have already had a great awakening. There's no way you couldn't, no matter who you are, unless you were purposely being deceitful or dishonest, or weren't willing to go through the process. If you've come through this process, you are now enlightened from where you were when you began. And this now continues this work one day at a time. And again, the genius is, it's not that you are cured. It's that you're more awake, ready for the next step, ready for the next thing, able to operate from this place now. And the gift of it is less fear, stress, anxiety, no more worried about using drugs and alcohol or acting out in addictive ways, moving along a path that leads to ever greater presence and awareness, joy and connection. Much more joyful way to live, showing up more powerfully in relationships, and being restored with the power of choice. You now have the power of choice again. When you began this process, you did not, but now you do. Where will this lead? Continued awakening, continued clearing, continued strengthening, empowerment, greater and greater sense of presence and joy, healthier mind, healthier body, as long as you are working towards those things. But you'll have the opportunity to work towards those things where before you didn't have the opportunity. So new opportunities coming into your life with every day. So let's bring the palms together at the heart center and allow the eyes to close for a moment. Take a deep inhale and a full exhale. Inhale to close with the Recovery 2.0 prayer. Universe, put us in the places you want us to be, with the people you want us to be with, doing the things you want us to do. Thank you for the joys and challenges of our lives. Amen. Sat Nam. Namaste. Peace to all, love to all, blessings to all.